Understanding and Avoiding Plagiarism, a Roane State Community College tutorial.
I have no idea what I'm going to write about for that paper. Do you?
No, not a clue. I think I'm more worried about all that plagiarism stuff. It sounds pretty serious.
Yeah, especially because she doesn't want just quotes. She wants summaries in her own words, too.
Yeah, and even if I put something in my own words, I've still got that information from the author. So I'm even more confused. What are we supposed to do with the summaries?
I don't know.
Me either.
Well, I gotta go.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you later.
I've got class. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I have this article from Mike here, and it says, for example, students in American history have long been taught facts rather than patterns and relationships. So how am I supposed to paraphrase that so I'm not plagiarizing?
Let me see it. Well, just cross out "for example" and say American history students have long been taught facts rather than patterns in relationships. And then you don't even have to put his name on it, because it's your own words.
I don't know. I don't think that sounds right. What about if I put, according to Mike Pear, students in American history have long been taught facts rather than patterns in relationships, and then I can cite it like our professor told us.
Well, do whatever you want, but I'm just not wasting that much time doing it, because if you cross out "for example" and change the front few words a little bit, then it's your own words, and you don't even have to include the name. So I'm not wasting my time with it. I'm just doing it the easy way.
I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'm covering my rear end.
Confused about plagiarism? Worried about citing your sources? We can help. To review, plagiarism is using the ideas and words of someone else as one's own without citing the original work. Summarizing involves putting the main ideas from a source into your own words. However, you will only include an overview of the main points. It is necessary to give credit to the original source within your essay, even though you aren't using the author's exact words. What just happened? The original sentence was, for example, students in American history have long been taught facts rather than patterns in relationships. Student 1's version is acceptable, as it correctly gives credit to the original author. Student 2's version is not, as it does not give credit.
Alright, so that is your research paper assignment, and all the requirements are in there. The most important thing that you need to pay attention to on this research paper is giving credit to your sources. Plagiarism is a very serious offense. Plagiarism is stealing someone else's ideas and not telling us where you're getting this information from. So you need to make sure you're giving credit to your sources. We're going to use MLA format, so we're going to document those sources. And so you want to make sure that you really emphasize that, because there are a lot of serious consequences that can occur if you're taking someone else's ideas and you're not giving them credit. So I want you to incorporate those sources properly. You can see all the other requirements for the assignment on there. Any questions for me before we continue? Yes.
What are some examples of plagiarism?
Okay, good question. Plagiarism, some examples are, if I quoted something in my paper, and I don't explain where this quote comes from, we just see quotation marks sitting there by themselves. I don't know where those ideas were taken from, I just know that they're someone else's. That could be a form of plagiarism if you don't explain where they're from and put an in-text citation in there. Another example of plagiarism would be something like summarizing some ideas from a source and acting as though they're your own ideas when really you read them in something else. So you want to make sure that when you're doing that, you're also giving credit to the source. If it didn't come from your own head, if it's not common knowledge, something that everybody would already know, then you need to cite your source there. And the worst example of plagiarism is just if you find a paper online and you try to turn it in as your own, which I know some students do that. Don't do that, because it's going to give you an F on this paper and possibly an F on the class. So those are some good examples. Any other questions for me? Yes?
Why is it such a serious offense?
First of all, it's stealing, right? You're stealing someone else's ideas, and you're acting as though they're your own, which is just like stealing anything, stealing a car. It belongs to someone else. It doesn't belong to you, and you need to acknowledge that. But also, in college, we're trying to teach you to be scholars. We want you to add your own voice to a conversation. That's why we're asking you to write a research paper. And if you're not adding your voice, if you're just taking information from other people, then you're not contributing to the discussion, you're not learning what you should be learning, and you don't have integrity. You're not supporting your own views, you're using someone else's ideas. So that makes it a really serious offense in this case. Okay, what else? Any other questions for me? Yeah.
What happens if we get caught plagiarizing?
Okay, if you get caught plagiarizing in this class, we're going to take a look at is it intentional plagiarism or unintentional plagiarism. If you did it on purpose, if you bought a paper online and you turned it in, you're going to fail the paper, and this college can fail you for the class. You can get kicked out of school for plagiarism if it's intentional. If it's unintentional, then we're going to have to discuss it and you're going to have to fix it. But you still might get an F for the assignment. So it's a very serious offense, and there are a lot of serious consequences that you want to be aware of. So we all need to make sure that we're giving credit to our sources. Any other questions for me? Yes?
How do you know if we plagiarized?
I will know that you plagiarized because a lot of times if you steal a paper, for example, I can Google a phrase that doesn't sound like you're writing, and that's usually the key. I can Google that phrase, and then it'll pop right up, and I'll see that it belongs to someone else. When I've looked at your other papers, I've gotten a sense for what your tone is. This is your third paper in this class. There's a reason why we don't do the research paper first. I have an idea of how you write, what you sound like, what your vocabulary is. So as soon as I see something that doesn't sound like you, I'm going to take a look at it, and I might Google it. If I put it into Google, it'll pop right up if you plagiarized it from a common website, especially if you bought a paper online. There's also lots of software that teachers can use to help identify plagiarism. So there are lots of ways for us to detect it, which is why you shouldn't even bother trying it.
FYI, serious consequences occur if you plagiarize, such as receiving a failing grade for the paper or the entire course. Students can also be expelled. Some examples of plagiarism include not citing work from outside sources and presenting another person's words or ideas as though they are your own. All research papers must include citations in two places, in your text and on the final page of your document. It is acceptable to summarize someone else's ideas in your paper without using a direct quote as long as you give credit to the author. All information that cannot be considered common knowledge must be cited, even if it's easily found on the internet. By enforcing your own state's plagiarism policy, instructors are not being picky, but are actually trying to help students produce original work that they can be proud of. Your instructors will know that your paper has been plagiarized because the way it sounds, your voice, will sound different than the way you usually write. Don't buy a paper online. Your instructors have access to Google too.
Hi. Hey. Can you help me with my research paper? I don't think I really need to bring it in here, but my professor said that I needed to. I think it doesn't flow very well.
All right, sure thing. Like an idea?
Sure.
I'm going to read over this assignment, and then I'll read over your paper, and then we'll talk about it, okay?
Okay.
All right. This looks pretty straightforward. So now I'm going to just read over your draft, and I'll make some comments, and then we'll talk together, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so overall, it's really good. There's some really good information in here. But there are parts of it that don't quite sound like you.
Oh, well, she wanted quotes and summaries, so.
Okay, well, even if it's a summary, it should be in your voice, right? Because the teacher wants to know what you have to say in your particular way, not someone else's words. Because she could just read what somebody else has to say. She doesn't have to use your paper. And quotes should always have quotation marks so that people know that you're talking about somebody else at that time.
Oh.
Okay? Where did you find the information that you used here?
I just kind of Googled it, and I put in the first few sites that came up.
Oh, okay. Well, Google is a good place to start if you're just trying to get some ideas, but you really don't want to use that research in your paper. It's like, it's not the strongest sources you can find, right? And think about it like you're building something, right? And you want to use stuff that's tried and true, like brick. You know, it wouldn't be Three Little Pigs building houses out of straw. And Google is straw, okay? It's not as strong as you can get. So we talk to librarians about finding some better sources that you can really make a firm foundation for your paper with, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Hello.
Hello. We are looking for some information on Edgar Allan Poe. Happy to help you. How's it going?
Oh, good, thanks. All right. How do I cite the information if I'm putting it in my own words? My instructor's really picky about plagiarism.
She's not being picky. It's just important to give credit where credit is due. I mean, you wouldn't want to do something and not get credit for it. And these people spend a lot of time on this, so they want to get credit too, right? So let's look in the keys for writers. MLA documentation. So as you can see right here, it explains all the information for how to do an in-text citation. And you want to remember you'll cite inside your paper and you'll cite on the final page for your works cited page, right? So essentially your works cited page is all the work that you cited in the paper.
Oh, well, then the works cited page should be easy, right? Because I can just copy and paste the URLs that I use for my sources onto the works cited page, and then my professor will know exactly where I got my information.
Well, not so much. Remember that right now you're a scholar, okay? And if there's a sentence that she disagrees with or thinks is really interesting and wants to know more about, then she needs to know exactly where to get that information from your works cited page. So you have to include the author's name, place of publication, and all that other information. You can see how here.
What about the in-text citations? Why do I need those, and where do they go?
Well, let's say you write a sentence that your reader doesn't agree with or doesn't quite understand, or you write a sentence that your reader is really, really interested in. The in-text citation tells them exactly where to go to find out more information about that particular piece of information. In-text citations go right after the information you're citing from, and they're to let your reader know this didn't come from me. So if you're more interested in what this is, go to my works cited page, and then you can find the information.
Oh, okay, I see. So without the in-text citations, then my professor won't know where I got my information from. So I'm going to have to add a lot of in-text citations to this paper, aren't I? Yeah, but I'll be here to help. No worries. Okay, thanks.
Did you know? Copying and pasting information from a website is only acceptable if you place quotation marks around the copied information and give credit to the source within your text. Plagiarism is not limited to final drafts. Borrowing anyone's ideas at any stage in the drafting process and presenting them as your own is always against the rules. When in doubt, cite. Check with your instructor to find out what should be included on the final page of your document. Usually, you only include sources you actually cited within your text, but some instructors may require a list of all the sources you looked at. Check your understanding. Please use the information that you've learned in this tutorial to complete the quiz. You'll receive immediate feedback on your answers. That way, you can see how well you understand this important concept. Be sure to ask for help if you need it. Still nervous? Think you'll need help? You could talk to your instructor, ask a librarian for help with your research, or ask a tutor at the Learning Center to read your paper.